Alright guys, today I'll be giving you a review of Comet at Hershey Park. This is the PTC Woody here, opened up back in 1946, and I personally think it's still the second best coaster in the park. I know that's a pretty outlandish opinion, but let me explain myself in this review. So you walk up to the ride, it has a nice white paint scheme, looks like an old classic wooden coaster, which, it is an old classic wooden coaster. So you get in the station, and you probably waited a long time for this, like an hour and a half or maybe even longer, unless you get here right away or you bought Fast Track, but you have to get here right away. I know Hershey Park Enthusiast tells you to go to Fahrenheit first, but trust me, this gets longer lines than Fahrenheit. You could hit Super Duper Looper and Sky Rush right after. It's definitely a good plan to hit this first, in my opinion. Once you get into the station, you are allowed to choose your row here. I only rode this once, so I rode in the back row, and it was phenomenal. However, most people don't even know the back row exists, so yeah, definitely use that to your advantage. Basically, where it is you have to find these blue railings. I had no clue what they led to, but I realized that was for the very back row. So basically, the back row is a walk on once you get into the station, while a middle row could be like 3 to 4 trains, which is kind of weird, but I'll take it. The trains for this ride are amazing. So basically, you have buzz bars, and then you have this annoying little seatbelt here, but don't worry because the ride ops don't actually do physical checks with the seatbelts, they only do visual checks. So you can technically have the seatbelt as loose as possible, which I didn't and wouldn't do. One, because you could still potentially get caught, and two, there's really no point because you're going to hit the buzz bar before you hit the top of the seatbelt. But definitely do not staple yourself with the seatbelt. Like, don't suffocate yourself. I feel like that's probably what screws over a bunch of people from really liking this thing. So do yourself a favor and don't ruin the ride by stapling yourself with that seatbelt. But the buzz bar itself is great. It feels like you have no restraint until you hit the top of it, which you definitely have a few good inches in between your lap and that buzz bar. It's really nice. So you're going to head out the lift hill. It's a classic lift hill. You get a great view of Sky Rush in the creek. Then you're going to hit the first drop, and this is one of many ejector pops on the ride. The ejector on this isn't the craziest, but assuming you didn't staple yourself, you get a ton of room, and that's pretty freaky, getting this strong of airtime with that much room. So that first drop gives a great pop of airtime. You're going to head up into the turnaround. The turnaround really doesn't do a whole lot except give you a nice view of Sky Rush and the rest of the park. Then you're going to head down the second drop, which I actually like more than the first drop. It gives an even better pop of airtime, in my opinion, which is kind of weird, but it makes sense because maybe the angle of descent is pretty similar, but it's smaller, so it has to hit that angle of descent quicker. Who knows? But then you're going to hit this next airtime hill. I wouldn't quite call this ejector, but it's still really good airtime over this next hill, especially since there's kind of like a kink halfway down the hill. Almost reminds me of like a mini version of Sky Rush's first drop, this hill. So that's really fun. Head up into another turnaround, this time getting a little bit of laterals, and then heading down another drop, getting good floater airtime. Head up into another turnaround, get a alright dose of laterals, and then head over 2 floater airtime hills. These I was a little disappointed by after the great start to the ride, but it definitely picks back up after. This next turnaround pins you to the side of the train, and then you have another good drop-off giving good floater airtime, and then you've got 3 floater hills increasing in strength. It almost reminds me of a bit of a weaker version of the Phoenix finale, and these hills are strong. I say floater, but it's borderline ejector. It's great airtime. Then you're going to hit another turnaround, and this is going to give you some more laterals. And then you're going to hit the finale, which is 1 drop off of that turnaround, giving almost ejector airtime, and then hitting another hill, which does give you ejector airtime. And then you're going to hit another little pop into the brake run, giving you another pretty weak floater pop, but it's still something to end out the ride on a bang. This layout works because of the buzz bars. The buzz bars and the layout go hand in hand. I don't think this layout would be quite as effective without buzz bars, which, I mean, that's pretty much all buzz bar coasters. Imagine Swamp Fox or Phoenix without the buzz bars. That's pretty much what this is. But with the buzz bars, it's an amazing ride. The seats actually give you a lot of room to kind of slide around the train a bit. So when you hit those lateral moments, you don't just like stay in place and have your body fold over. You actually kind of move too with the ride, which is really cool. And again, those airtime moments, you're coming a few inches out of your seat, assuming you didn't staple yourself with the seat belt. And that's always a really fun moment. Reminds me a lot of Phoenix. And speaking of other Buzz Bar Woodies, I've only really been on this in Phoenix. Phoenix is amazing. It's a top 10 coaster for me. I love it. It doesn't have the seat belt, but even if it did, I think it would definitely be better than this. I think the strongest moment on Comet is probably on par with the second airtime hill on Phoenix, I'd say, which the second airtime hill on Phoenix is definitely great. It's the third best part of the ride, only behind the double down and the finale. But the double down's definitely stronger than that, and the finale's just crazy. There's definitely not a part of Comet that's quite that strong, but it's consistent. Like, there's not one hill on this ride that's really a dud, besides potentially those two hills in the middle. But even still, you're getting, like, airtime better than Candemonium's finale. So I want to talk about the smoothness next. It's got a little bit of a bite, which I actually like on wooden coasters, and I think most people could agree that wood coasters should have a bit of a bite. It's not perfect, but it's definitely smooth enough that like my dad could ride it and not really complain too much. But it's also rough enough that it doesn't feel like a true steel coaster, which it's not and shouldn't feel like. So it's not like a ride like Mystic Timbers or Lightning Racer or pretty much any GCI where it feels too smooth for its own good. This thing's got a 42-inch height requirement, which I know Phoenix also has, and it's probably because of the buzz bars. Anyone can fit in it, basically. And it also comes in pretty far on you, so there's really not many opportunities to get out. So technically, my 5-year-old sister could ride this if she wanted to, and I think that's part of the reason why this gets such a big line, is pretty much anyone can ride it. It's not too intimidating, although it's definitely better than a lot more intimidating rides in the park. So overall, for its final score, if you didn't watch my video yesterday about the perfect way to score a roller coaster, then I'd definitely go watch that. But basically, I have a formula to grade a coaster out of 1,000. I'm done with the 10 out of 10 thing or 8 out of 10 or whatever, because it's too indefinite. This way I can get an exact score for it, and I basically score these based off which ride would I rather ride more. And I've already said this is the second best coaster at Hershey Park in my opinion, so I'm giving it a very high score of 915 out of 1,000. So basically it would be a lower 9 out of 10, but I love this ride. It's the most underrated coaster I've ever ridden right now. It's got great airtime that nobody talks about and definitely should be loved more. So thank you guys for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.